Picture this. You lay your mother to rest on a Tuesday. By Friday, a bulldozer is chewing through the same forest your great-grandfather planted in 1885. Not an accident. Not confusion. The HOA president, let's call her Diane, pulls up in a spotless white Lexus, window sliding down like she's unveiling a royal decree. She flashes a construction permit at me with that smug grin. 12 luxury villas. $4 million in value. My land. Most people would have called the cops right then, demanded an injunction, made a scene. But me? I did the opposite. I stood back and let her build. Foundation by foundation, beam by beam. Every slab, wall, marble countertop, and pool. I watched them reach 95% completion before I walked into court with a deed older than her entire family line. And took it all. Here's my question for you. Have you ever wanted to burn down someone's arrogance without lighting a single match? If you have, drop yes in the comments and tell me what state you're in. Because trust me, your HOA has a Diane too. My name's Eli Brennan, 47, surveyor by trade, divorced because my ex-wife said I was too slow to react. She wasn't wrong. I'm deliberate, methodical, the kind of man who measures twice before he cuts once. But when someone steals from you, patience becomes a weapon sharper than any blade. The land in question, 18 acres of hardwood forest in Shenandoah County, Virginia. Comparable plots go for $500,000. Easy. Mine had road access, a freshwater stream, and timber worth another 80 grand. My great-grandfather, Samuel Brennan, bought it for $200 and a mule back in 1885. Logged it carefully. Replanted every tree he took. My grandfather harvested maple syrup every spring. My father kept bees. Mom, God rest her, turned it into a wildlife sanctuary. No hunting, no engines, just foxes, owls, and the occasional black bear cutting through the mist. I still remember that scent of wet oak after rain, the crunch of hickory underfoot in October. That forest was home. When Mom's health went downhill, she moved to assisted living in Ohio but kept paying taxes to the very end. When she passed in April, the will was simple. Everything went to me. No siblings, no disputes. Clean title. After her funeral, I spent 2 days finishing her paperwork, then drove back to Virginia, expecting peace and quiet. Maybe scatter her ashes by the creek. Instead, I got diesel fumes and the shriek of backup alarms. That sound, you know it. The beep, beep, beep of a machine reversing, like time counting down. I turned onto the access road and froze. Orange fencing. Excavators tearing into the southeast edge. Concrete trucks parked beside 4 fresh foundations, still curing. A sign on the fence, Ridgeline Estates, Phase 1, 4 slabs down. 8 more to go. I walked to the perimeter, jaw tight. A foreman in a neon vest spotted me. "Need something, ma'am?" he asked. Didn't even bother to look twice. I just said, "This is my land." He frowned. "No, sir. This is a permitted development. Talk to the HOA, and right on cue, white Lexus, polished, purring. Window glides down. Diane Corinne. Early 50s, platinum highlights, gym clothes that cost more than my monthly mortgage. The Queen of Laurel Ridge. The subdivision that popped up beside my property between 2019 and 2022. She ran the HOA and sold houses there. A one-woman conflict of interest. "Can I help you, sir?" she said, voice dripping fake politeness. "This land's been in my family since 1885, I told her. Her smile didn't budge. "There's been some confusion. We acquired this parcel last fall through a tax lien foreclosure, all above board. If you have an issue, submit it in writing. HOA meetings are the 3rd Thursday of every month." She handed me a brochure before driving off without waiting for a reply. 12 eco-friendly villas, infinity pools. Tagline: luxury living in harmony with nature. I stared at that brochure, at the irony, and almost laughed. Then I went home and did what any surveyor would, check the records. That night I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, pulled up the county's property database. Parcel 1409, owner Eli Brennan. Date recorded April 15th. No lions, no sales. No transfers. My coffee went cold as I stared at the screen. Outside, I could still hear the faint hum of their generators through the trees. Diane hadn't acquired anything. She'd forged paperwork, gotten fake permits, and counted on me being too distracted or too broke to fight back. She was wrong, so I did what I do best. I planned. I waited. Day 2, I was back at sunrise. Camera in hand. Every photo time-stamped, GPS tagged, cataloged. Foundations, stakes, heavy equipment, all documented. 12 villa plots, a clubhouse, a pool. Every piece of evidence neatly filed away. The workers eyed me curiously, but none stopped me. They were the trespassers, not me. By 9 a.m., I was at the courthouse. The clerk, Brenda, looked like she'd been there since disco was popular, barely looked up when I asked for the deed. Parcel 14009, I said. She typed, squinted, shuffled to a filing cabinet that looked older than both of us. 5 minutes later, she handed me a photocopy, recorded 1885, updated 1957, transferred to me this April. Unbroken chain. No gaps, no liens. All mine, I said quietly. Then I asked the obvious. How did someone get a building permit on my land? Brenda sighed. If the paperwork clears initial review, we issue it. Happens more than you'd think. I looked at that piece of paper, the legal proof that this land was mine, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Diane wanted to play a long game? Fine. She'd just built her empire on my foundation, and when the time came, I'd take every inch of it back. Courts don't decide who owns the dirt, not at first anyway. That's civil territory. What I learned real fast was that county governments don't confirm ownership. They just rubber stamp whoever claims it on paper. That's how people like Diane get away with murder, legally speaking. That afternoon, I sent a polite, professional email to the Laurel Ridge HOA board. Subject line, unauthorized construction on parcel 14009. Attached my deed straightforward. No emotion. Just a demand to stop work immediately. 12 hours later, the reply landed. Not from the board, from Diane herself. She'd CC'd some lawyer named Mitchell Hogarth, Esquire. The man's email signature looked like a circus poster. Bold. Italic, underlined, multiple colors. Mr. Brennan, our records indicate Lot 47B was lawfully obtained via tax lien foreclosure last November. You may own a neighboring property. Survey discrepancies are common in rural counties. Construction will proceed as scheduled. Best regards, Diane Corrin, President, Laurel Ridge HOA, Lot 47B. It didn't exist. I'd surveyed this entire county more than once. There was no 47B, no foreclosure, no lien. My property taxes were paid through 2027. She was gaslighting me, planting that seed of doubt. Maybe I'd misread something. Maybe I was confused. I wasn't. Outside, a chainsaw screamed to life. Villas 5 and 6 were already being cleared. By day 4, my neighbor Ron stopped by. Good guy. Drives a truck that rattles like a coffee can full of bolts. But he looked uneasy. You seen the Laurel Ridge Facebook page? He asked. No. He showed me his phone. Private group, 400 members. At the top, Diane's post. Heads up, neighbors. A man is falsely claiming our expansion violates his property line. He's been confrontational with contractors. Please report any suspicious activity. Let's keep our community safe. 65 likes. Angry faces. Comments full of venom. Some people just want attention. Call the cops if he shows up. Ron scratched the back of his neck. Didn't seem right to me. Figured you should know. Appreciate it, I said. And I meant it. That weekend, I hired a private surveyor. $1,800 I didn't have to spare, but I needed ironclad proof. 2 days later, he came back with a full report. Orange flags in the soil, iron pins at every corner. His verdict, all 12 villas, the clubhouse, and the pool sat squarely on my property. No gray area. No boundary confusion. Straight trespass. I brought the file to Martin Gist, my lawyer, semi-retired, cranky, and sharp as ever. He flipped through the pages, then looked up at me with a grin that could have split wood. Eli, I can stop this tomorrow. Injunction. Cease work. The whole show. Or... He paused, tapping the folder. You let them finish. Every brick, every countertop. The more she builds, the more you own when we drop the hammer. He was right. Completed structures were worth more in damages. Easier to value. Easier to seize. I thought about my ex-wife. You never react fast enough, Eli. Maybe she was right. But this time, slow was going to win. Let them build, I said. That night, I sat on my porch with a bottle of Old Forester, listening to the nail guns echo through the trees. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Somewhere down the gravel road, a white Lexus crept by. Diane didn't stop. Didn't wave, I raised my glass. Dig deeper, Diane. Week 2. The first move came by mail, a thick cream-colored envelope that looked like a wedding invitation. Gold-embossed logo from Hogarth & Associates. Inside, a letter that practically reeked of arrogance. Dear Mr. Brennan, in the interest of an amicable resolution, Laurel Ridge HOA offers to purchase your adjacent 10-acre parcel for $85,000. This includes a mutual confidentiality agreement to protect both parties. 85 grand. For land worth $500,000. Adjacent parcel, as if their villas weren't already sitting on it. And that confidentiality clause. That was the real tell. Hush money. Sign it, take the pennies, and pretend nothing ever happened. I wrote back the same day, Mr. Hogarth, I decline your client's offer to purchase land I already own. Construction on parcel 14009 remains unauthorized. Regards, Eli Brennan. Martin always said, in legal fights, the calmest man wins. Let the other side lose control first. While Diane was busy trying to buy my silence, I was building an army. It started at Cornerstone Diner over burnt coffee and scrambled eggs. A woman at the next table leaned over, silver hair in a bun, eyes sharp as nails. You're the Brennan boy, aren't you? Yes, ma'am. Marge Tully. Your great-granddad sold timber to my family a century ago. Heard you're having trouble with that HOA woman. She smiled. Might have something you'll want to see. 2 days later, I was standing in her basement, surrounded by boxes that smelled like dust and memory. She handed me a rolled-up parchment, edges brittle with age. 1894 plat map, she said. From your great-grandfather's files. I unrolled it carefully, and there it was. My property line drawn in faded black ink. And another line, dotted, cutting through what was now Laurel Ridge's main entrance. Right of way, Marge said, for timber hauling. Never formally vacated. I'd read about cases like that, where an old, forgotten logging easement shut down entire subdivisions because no one bothered to check the old records. Easements don't vanish. They sleep until someone wakes them. If this one was still active, I could shut down Diane's access road. Block her entire neighborhood if I wanted. Marge, I said slowly, you might have just handed me a nuclear option. She winked. Figured you'd appreciate that. 3 days later, at a gas station off Route 11, another ally found me. Guy in a dusty vest, tan lines on his neck, exhaustion in his eyes. Name's Ray Booker, he said quietly. Summit Contractors. I'm the foreman out there. He glanced around before continuing. Look, I don't know what's going on, but Diane's checks are bouncing. My crew's ready to walk. If you're really the owner? He hesitated. I pulled my deed from the glove box. I'd started carrying it everywhere. He read it, studied the photos on my phone, the GPS tags, the survey lines, then muttered, son of a bitch. From his vest pocket, he pulled a folded budget sheet. $4.2 million total. She's pre-sold 6 of those villas for around $850 apiece. If this thing collapses, she's finished. When I win, I said, I'll make sure you and your crew get paid, and I'll need help fixing whatever she ruins. Ray nodded, shook my hand. Deal. That night, I got another email, this one from Kevin Lackader, apparently one of Diane's board members. Subject, I owe you an apology. Diane never showed us a title report. She said her lawyer cleared everything. The rest of the message rambled. Bible quotes, excuses, guilt. But that one line told me everything I needed to know. The cracks were starting to show. Diane's empire was built on sand, and I was about to watch it sink. We trusted her, and I'm still ashamed we didn't double-check. I forwarded everything straight to Martin. His reply was short but cutting. Negligence layered on fraud. Perfect. By that point, construction had hit 40%. Framed walls were rising like a bad dream. Ray's crew even waved when I drove by. They knew the truth. Diane knew too. I spotted her sitting in her Lexus under a sycamore, biting her nails to the quick. Let her sweat. My case was solidifying while hers was collapsing. Week 5, Diane went full scorched earth. She called the Shenandoah Sentinel, our small-town paper, and spoon-fed them her sob story. Headline the next morning. Local HOA battles frivolous land claim. The article was a masterpiece of manipulation, painting her as a brave single mom defending her community against a greedy troublemaker. I laughed out loud. Single mom? Her husband was a notary who helped forge her mess. And those affordable villas she bragged about? They started at $850,000. Affordable for who? Surgeons? Still, the smear worked. At the grocery store, I got cold stares. My mailbox got egged. The waitress at Cornerstone Cafe couldn't meet my eyes. Then came the cherry on top. Diane filed for a restraining order, claiming I'd threatened her contractors. All fabricated. I showed up in court with my receipts, photos, and silence. The judge dismissed it in 5 minutes flat. No witnesses. No evidence. But Diane didn't need a win. She needed the headline, HOA seeks protection from aggressive claimant. I didn't rant online or write angry letters. I went quieter and sharper. 2 days later, the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry got an anonymous tip. Stormwater runoff, unsafe slopes, missing barriers at the Ridgeline site. I wasn't lying. I'd seen it myself. When the inspector arrived unannounced, he spent hours crawling over the project. 4 red tags went up, $60,000 in fines. Construction frozen, crew idle. Diane furious. Regulations only feel like red tape until they're your sword. A few days later, Ray called, half laughing. Don't know who tipped him off, but Diane's losing it. Screaming fits daily. Stressful, I said flatly. Yeah, real stressful. While work stalled, her buyers got nervous. One lawyer from Richmond demanded proof of title insurance, found my deed in the records. Diane stalled, then made a fatal mistake. She CC'd instead of BCC'd. Within an hour, 3 buyers were threatening to pull out. Her lender started breathing down her neck, week 7. 2 in the morning. My truck alarm blared. I ran out in boots and boxers. Every tire slashed, windshield cracked, spray paint across the hood. Drop it. For the first time, I felt real fear. Not of Diane, but of what desperation drives people to do. I filed the report, knowing it'd go nowhere, then spent $900 on trail cameras. 3 nights later, jackpot. A white Lexus pulled onto my road. Passenger door opened. A man with a gas can stepped out, froze when my motion lights came on, and bolted. The camera caught everything. License plate clear as day. Diane's Lexus. The guy looked like her brother-in-law, Travis. I saved the footage. Made 3 copies. Didn't call the sheriff yet. Let her think she'd scared me off. Work resumed once the fines cleared. The place was almost livable now. Roofs, paint, landscaping. Every nail she paid for, every hour spent was money she'd lose. Week 8, Marge called, breathless. Eli, get over here, and now. Her living room looked like a crime lab, papers everywhere. I found something, she said, handing me a county tax affidavit dated months before construction started. It claimed a tax lien foreclosure on my land, $12,000 in back taxes, transferring ownership to Laurel Ridge HOA, ink signed and notarized by none other than Jay Coran, Diane's husband. My taxes had been paid for years. Marge had checked. The parcel number didn't even exist. They'd invented a fake sublot, a phantom foreclosure, and slipped it through the county clerk like a forged key. I sat there in silence, listening to the old clock tick, realizing how close I'd come to losing everything my mother left me. She committed felony fraud, I said finally. Marge nodded, and she thought you'd never look. The next morning, Ray called me again. We need to talk. Not on the phone. At a truck stop off I-81, he slid me a folder. Diane's not just stealing your land, he said. She's running a Ponzi scheme. Inside loan papers, duplicate sales, overlapping deposits. $4.2 million in loans. But she'd pre-sold villas twice. Some to HOA members as investments, others to outsiders as homes. Same properties, same promises. When it collapsed, everyone would lose, except Diane. That night, Martin laid out my final move. You could sue, he said, or you can use Virginia's accession law. If someone builds on your land without permission, you own the improvements. You mean, you take the villas, all 12. The idea stunned me, and then steadied me. I thought about the veterans who needed housing, the families who'd been conned, the crew who'd lose paychecks, and my mother's land paved over for greed. I'll take them, I said. But not for profit. We'll make it right. Martin nodded. That's justice. When Diane's final offer came, $150,000 and a forced apology, I didn't even read it twice. I tossed it in the trash, let her finish building. Every nail, every tile, every dollar would soon belong to me. Every villa Diane finished became another brick in her downfall. The trap was almost ready. Week 10. Martin's conference room smelled of burnt coffee and determination. 3 bankers' boxes sat on the table, stuffed with documents, photos, and exhibits. Months of quiet warfare distilled into paper. Martin stood at the head, sleeves rolled, highlighter behind his ear like a carpenter's pencil. This, he said, tapping the fraudulent foreclosure affidavit, is Exhibit A. Everything else, napalm. Inside those boxes was everything we needed. My 1885 deed, updated surveys, Ray's signed work orders with Diane's signature alone, trail cam footage showing her Lexus and that Kevin's damning email confirming the HOA board never verified any title report, and the pre-sale contracts promising ownership Diane never had. Then there was Marge's ace, the 1894 plat map proving an easement right through Laurel Ridge's front gate. If we wanted, we could legally shut down access to the entire development. We file Monday, Martin said. Quiet title, trespass, fraud. I'm also notifying First Valley Bank. They've loaned millions against collateral that doesn't exist, I asked. And after that? He smiled thinly. Then the fire starts. By Wednesday, it was an inferno. The Sentinel broke the story. Richmond picked it up. By Thursday, local TV vans blocked the site entrance. A reporter asked a confused electrician, "Sir, did you know you're working on stolen land?" He shrugged. "I'm union. I get paid either way." Friday morning, First Valley pulled the trigger, froze Diane's loan. 10 days to prove ownership or pay back $3.2 million. She couldn't. Her emergency HOA meeting that weekend was chaos. Doors closed, tempers open. Words still leaked out. She blamed me, said I was stealing their project. But the truth was spreading faster than her lies. People started checking records, asking questions. One of them was Paula Ang, nurse, single mom, mid-40s. She'd sunk her entire retirement $220,000 into a villa. She called me, voice trembling. "I think I've been scammed." We met at the Cornerstone Diner. She slid her contract across the table and pointed at a buried clause. Binding arbitration. No lawsuits allowed. Another line read, Laurel Ridge HOA guarantees full title ownership. She looked up, eyes wet. "That's not true, is it?" "No," I said quietly. By week's end, Paula had found 5 other buyers in the same mess. They hired a lawyer and joined my case. Diane wasn't fighting one man anymore. She was fighting a crowd she'd conned. Here's the thing about fraud. It isolates victims until someone connects the dots. Then it turns into an avalanche, and then the inevitable fracture. Jay Corian, Diane's husband, the notary who'd supposedly witnessed the fake foreclosure, got subpoenaed. A quiet man, accountant, the kind who color codes receipts. He hired his own lawyer and sent Martin a short letter. "I'll testify. My wife used my notary stamp without consent. I want immunity," Martin called me. Her husband flipped. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like watching the roof cave in. Tragic, but inevitable. Week 13. Final walkthrough. The villas stood gleaming under the sun, 90% finished, pool shimmering, landscaping fresh. Me, Martin, Marge, Ray, and Paula stood in silence, taking in what greed had built. "Court's in 2 weeks, Martin said. "She'll cry, play victim. Let the evidence speak." Ray crossed his arms. "Half my crew's ready to testify just to see her squirm." Paula nodded. "We're all behind you, Eli." I looked at those golden rooftops. She could have done this the right way. She could have asked. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's a warning. Nobody gets to steal family land because they think a luxury car makes them untouchable." Marge touched my arm. Your mom would be proud. She wanted this land protected. The sun dipped low, shadows stretching like fingers over the unfinished villas. 2 weeks. I was ready. Then came Diane's voice, honeyed, practiced, on my phone. Eli, she said sweetly, let's be reasonable. I'll give you 3 villas, free and clear. Sell them. Walk away rich. Just sign an NDA and drop the suit. I paused. I don't want your villas, Diane. I want my land back. And I want you out of real estate. Her tone curdled. You have no idea who you're dealing with. See you in court, I said and hung up. Filed another police report. Attempted bribery. Documentation always matters. 2 days later, her lawyer filed a counterclaim, accusing me of forging my own deed, planting false survey markers, and intimidating her contractors. Attached was a report from a so-called handwriting expert. Martin checked. Hogarth's cousin, he said. Not certified. Did his analysis from photocopies? They're claiming your 1885 deed's fake, Martin said. I laughed once. Of course they are. Then Diane went on TV. Evening news, full sob story treatment. Conservative dress, tissue in hand, tears glistening just right. I'm just trying to help families, she said. He's using the system to destroy me. I'm scared. I watched alone, coffee cold, the house silent except for her voice rewriting history. Friday, Martin called. Press conference. Monday, courthouse steps. You're speaking. I hate cameras, I said. She's winning the PR war. Time to flip the script. Monday morning, gray clouds drizzle in the air. Dozens of cameras. Martin spoke first. Fraud, trespass, forged foreclosure. Then he stepped back. My turn. I held up my deed in a clear plastic sleeve. My name is Eli Brennan. My family's owned this land for 140 years. This document proves it. Mrs. Corian built on it using a forged foreclosure created with her husband's notary stamp. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. I kept my voice calm, factual. Let the truth do the talking. By Tuesday, the internet had done its thing. The story exploded. Reddit, TikTok, national headlines. HOA Karen builds mansions on stolen land. Clips of Diane's TV sob story got remixed with circus music, meme edits, even Curb Your Enthusiasm themes. Overnight, the narrative flipped. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was the villain. Wednesday, the HOA board voted 4-0 to remove her. She didn't even show. Then came the audit. The results hit like a grenade, $180,000 in embezzled HOA dues over 3 years. Lexus payments, Caribbean vacations, plastic surgery. The luxury villas had partly been a money laundering project. Martin called that night. She's not just facing lawsuits anymore. The Commonwealth's filing criminal charges, and the bank followed. First Valley called the loan, $3.2 million due immediately. The HOA couldn't pay. They were broke. The bank seized the villas and shut down the site. Ray called furious. 3 weeks unpaid. She ghosted us. That afternoon, I wired him $15,000 from my own account. Good faith, I said. Long pause. You didn't have to. Yeah, I did. You didn't do anything wrong. By Friday, Diane was gone. House empty. Lexus missing. Rumors everywhere. Rehab, Tennessee. Hiding with family. The truth came later. She was holed up in a roadside motel. Curtains drawn. Surviving on boxed wine and denial. Construction sat frozen at 95%. The villas gleamed but hollow. Shells of greed. The pool reflected only clouds. Week 17. Court day. Judge Harlan Meeks presiding. Ex-Army JAG, known for no-nonsense rulings. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, victims, lawyers, onlookers. Diane looked pale, worn down, gray dress hanging loose. Her attorney opened with a weak defense. Ambiguous boundaries. My client acted in good faith, Martin stood. Your Honor, the 1894 plat map matches the current survey exactly. Boundaries unchanged for 140 years. Mr. Corian will testify his wife forged the foreclosure with his stamp. Is Mr. Corian present? The judge asked. Jay rose. Quiet, trembling. She used my notary seal without permission, he said. I didn't know until I got the subpoena. I'm sorry. He looked at her once. She didn't look back. Then came Ray. Straight-backed, boots clean, calm as bedrock. He described every order, every bounced check, every lie. She told us not to talk to Brennan, he said. Said he was crazy. Then I saw the deed. Realized we'd been building on stolen land. Next, Paula testified. Voice shaking but steady. She told me it was safe, legal. I trusted her with everything I had. Finally, Diane took the stand. Tears, trembling hands. Claimed she was misled by bad advice. Said she never meant harm. Martin approached slowly, expression unreadable. Mrs. Corian, he said, how many families did you mislead before you found out? She blinked hard but didn't answer. The room was silent, except for the sound of her empire finally cracking. Mrs. Corian, Martin began, voice calm but sharp as a blade, when did you first review Mr. Brennan's deed? She hesitated. I don't recall exactly. You're a licensed real estate agent, correct? Yes? And you understand how to check a property title before filing a permit? Long pause. My attorney handled that. Mr. Hogarth, the attorney sitting right beside you? Martin asked, pointing. Did he ever tell you the foreclosure was legitimate? Hogarth shifted in his chair. Diane's voice grew strained. I relied on the documentation I had. Documentation you created? Martin said quietly. Your husband has testified under oath that you used his notary stamp without his consent. The county has no record of any foreclosure at all. You forged it, didn't you? I made a mistake. A mistake or fraud? Objection, Hogarth shouted. Sustained, said the judge, but the courtroom already knew. The silence that followed was heavy and final. Tears streaked down Diane's face. The HOA was drowning in debt, she said, voice cracking. If we finished the villas, sold them, it would have fixed everything. A collective breath filled the courtroom. Martin sat down. The judge rubbed his temples. I've heard enough, Judge Meeks said at last. Mr. Brennan's title stands. The foreclosure is fraudulent. Construction was unauthorized. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks for damages and restitution. Mrs. Corian, your actions are referred for criminal review. The gavel struck like thunder. Outside, cameras flashed. Diane shoved through the reporters, face hidden. Hogarth trailed behind her, already pretending he hadn't known her name. Martin, Marge, Ray, and Paula joined me on the courthouse steps. No cheers, just quiet relief. 2 weeks, Martin said. Then this chapter ends. I looked back at the courthouse. Brick, flags snapping in the wind. No, I said. Then the real work begins. 2 weeks later, same courtroom. Packed to the walls. The press sat shoulder to shoulder, broadcasting live. The Commonwealth's attorney, Wanda Bledsoe, watched from the front row, there to decide if criminal charges would follow. Diane sat alone now. Hogarth had withdrawn, citing irreconcilable differences. Her new lawyer was a weary public defender. Diane's hair was limp, her suit wrinkled. The woman who once ruled a boardroom with charm now looked like a ghost of herself. Damages phase, the judge said. Mr. Gist, proceed. Martin stood and presented the figures on a large board for everyone to see. Trespass, $4.2 million timber loss, $85,000 emotional distress, $50,000 punitive damages, $2 million total, $6.3 million. The defender stood weakly. Your Honor, Mrs. Corian has filed for bankruptcy. She has no means to pay punitive damages. The judge didn't blink. Collectability isn't the issue. Accountability is. Then Paula's attorney stepped forward, representing the 5 defrauded buyers. He requested $250,000 in restitution. The judge granted it, personally against Diane, jointly with the HOA. Finally, Wanda Bledsoe rose. Based on testimony and evidence, the Commonwealth will pursue charges for forgery, fraud, and embezzlement. We're also opening an investigation into Attorney Hogarth for possible conspiracy. Diane's head dropped. Her hands trembled. Then Judge Meeks turned to me. Mr. Brennan, would you like to address the court? I stood, palms damp. Your Honor, I never wanted a fight. I wanted to keep the land my family's cared for since 1885. Mrs. Corian took that from me. She lied to buyers, to banks, to her own neighbors. But I don't want vengeance. I just want what's right. I looked at Diane. The villas stay where they are, but I won't turn them into profit. 6 will house veterans rebuilding their lives. 3 will go to a conservation trust. The rest will be affordable rentals for local families. That's justice. The courtroom stayed utterly still. The judge nodded. Mr. Brennan, your integrity honors your family name. Full title is awarded to you, including all improvements. Mrs. Corian owes $4.2 million in damages and $1 million punitive. Restitution to victims is ordered. The criminal referral remains. He turned to the HOA board. This community needs real leadership and transparency. Learn from this. Then the gavel fell again. Outside, the media swarmed. Diane tried to run from the cameras. Minutes later, deputies stepped in, handcuffs clicked, charges read. She didn't fight. Just bowed her head as flashbulbs popped. Marge stood beside me. You did good, kid. Doesn't feel like it. It never does. But you stopped her from doing this to someone else. Half an hour later, a tow truck hauled away her white Lexus. A resident ripped down the Ridgeline Estates sign and tossed it into a dumpster. I'd won. But what came next mattered more. 6 months later, autumn air rolled through the valley. The villas, once monuments to fraud, were now alive with purpose. Block A became transitional housing for veterans, 6 units run with Virginia Veteran Services. Marcus, a Marine who'd once lived in his car, now ran HVAC systems for the property. One afternoon, he shook my hand and said, "You gave me a second shot, man." Block B sold to a land trust, funding 200 acres of permanent conservation on my remaining land. No developer would ever touch it. Block C, 3 units, rented for $900 a month, half the market rate. Teachers, nurses, mechanics, all finally able to afford a home. The clubhouse became a community center, ESL classes on Tuesdays, a food pantry Thursdays, art for kids every weekend. The pool? Free all summer. Diane served 18 months in state prison, 5 years probation, $1.8 million restitution she'd never be able to repay. Hogarth was disbarred, now selling insurance in West Virginia. Her husband divorced her, moved south, sends me a Christmas card every year. The HOA reformed under new leadership. Kevin returned as president, implemented audits, brought in transparency. They even invited me to a community potluck. By the end of the night, we were laughing about property tax assessments. My case went viral. 4 million views on a legal YouTube breakdown. I did 2 Reddit AMAs helping other landowners fight HOA fraud. 2 more in Virginia used my same strategy, and won. Months later, 60 Minutes ran a segment on HOA corruption. My documents anchored the story. Lawmakers passed a bill requiring HOAs to carry liability insurance and submit to regular audits. A year later, I hosted the first Forest and Family Festival on the land. Free admission, 600 visitors, kids' scavenger hunts, maple syrup demos, veterans sharing stories. Paula's daughter painted a butterfly on my hand. Ray's crew taught kids carpentry. As the sun sank, Marcus found me by the creek. "You could have sold it all and walked away rich," he said. "Why didn't you?" I smiled. "Because some things aren't for sale." The water shimmered. Laughter drifted through the trees. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. Subject, need your help. Another HOA, another landowner, same scam. I forwarded it to Martin. His reply came quick. "Here we go again." I looked out at the trees and smiled. Some fights are worth having, I said to myself. Some land is worth protecting.